Hello again, this is Entropy.
And this is Lucifera.
Here again to continue our discussion of the book, the secret book of John, Gnostic Gospel. Let's delve right into the book again. This section is called The Goal of Gnostic Salvation. This is a mythology. It is a story of how things came to be the way they are, a story that sets the pattern for everything forever, or as this myth has it, until forever is over. The ultimate goal of humanity is to come to understand this myth, the Gospel of the secret book of John, in such a way that the pattern of de-evolution from the fullness of God to humanity's imprisonment in matter is reversed. To understand the events of our fall reveals to us a map for our journey of ascent. We will emerge free from matter, rise above Yaldabaoth and his demons, return to established position in the mind of God, and never leave again. The mistake of Sevilla will be resolved, and the wisdom will be fully restored to God. The mind of God will be fully sane and healed. The Gnostic myth is a tale of the growth of God's mental disintegration. The myth reaches its most unhappy form when the Godhead has not only forgotten who God is, but does not even know that God truly exists and begins to worship the artificial deity, Yaldabaoth, as creator of an external world. In the depths of God's fall, the Godhead believes itself to be human and worships Yaldabaoth as a god of the Hebrew Bible. Gnostic texts concern themselves with the attempt by God to return to a state of mental harmony, union, and completion of self-recognition. The Gnostic religion has at its core the view that the world, as known by ordinary people, is a symptom of God's self-forgetfulness. As a symptom, it is evil, but it is so only as the aches of self-deluded, psychomathically ill persons are evil. Not only are the aches non-existent, but there is a healthy body really there all the time. For Gnostics, the external and material world is only apparently evil because to the consciousness of the enlightened individual, the pleroma, or mind of God, is really there all the time. There is no evil realm of matter in Gnosticism. There are only erroneous world views that regard the world of matter as a realm independent of the mind of God. In Gnosticism, when God regards the world as material, as created, and not God, then the Godhead ceases to know itself. In the final analysis, there is nothing for Gnostic but God. Sophia, God's wisdom, is not a person distinct from God. Sophia is a form of God's own consciousness. When the Godhead ceases to know itself, God seems to be human and falls into multiple personalities we know as human beings. Humankind is fallen God. The goal of Gnostic salvation, then, is to bring self-awareness back to God, which means that divine self-knowledge is the religious goal of human life. Gnostic writers were haunted by this question. How did the Gnostic head cease to know itself and begin to believe that God is human? Gnostics believed that recollection of the origin of the difficulty in which God came to be would enable God, us, to return to correct self-apprehension. This is similar to the theory underlying psychoanalysis. The recollection or re-experience of an original trauma will dissolve that trauma. Salvation is the inverse of the myth of origin, a retracting upwards of the descent of God into the imprisoning world. Okay, well, first of all, The first paragraph of this is rather simple. It's explaining that the Gospel of John is merely a myth. We cannot conceive of what happened in the beginning, if you like to call it that, without the aid of a mythology that surrounds it. The human mind can't possibly comprehend the energies that existed and became form, so to speak, at the beginning of the universe. Our ultimate goal, it's saying, is to realize who we are. Now, I have had this experience, all right? This is the reason why I say that I am enlightened. If someone says that they are enlightened, they are. You don't make that statement. You may say, I think I'm enlightened, or I believe I'm working towards enlightenment. That's what a statement is made. That statement is made when someone is unsure whether they are enlightened. If they're unsure as to whether or not they are enlightened, then they are not enlightened. Enlightenment is very simple. I can tell you what it is. However, you won't know it until you yourself know it. And when enlightenment came to me, it came to me in 3 little words. I am God. Now, this does not mean that I am God separate from you, because we are all one, and we are all God. You don't try to comprehend this, because you just know it. And when you know it beyond any doubt. And when you know that, you know who you are and what it is that you need to be doing. This book here is explaining exactly what it is, precisely what it is that we need to be doing as this God that thinks it's only a man.
This is what the demiurge tries to keep you from, and what the churches keep you from. They don't want you to recognize the divine within you. You are God. We are God. We need to stop being afraid of that and look within.
It's very easy for the church to continue to have power and authority over you, because what they use is fear. And fear is a very strong and powerful weapon. But once you come to the realization of who you are, once you come to realization that you yourself are God, then you will not fear anymore anything that's going to happen to you, or anything that's going to happen to anyone that you may love. You concern yourself only with the fact and knowledge of who you are, and there is nothing in the universe that you can obtain that's going to give you more satisfaction, happiness, and completeness than the self-awareness that you yourself are indeed God.
It is up to you to break free of the prison and ascend into heaven.
As the book says it, as far as worshiping another God, it says, we've forgotten who's God, but not only do not know who's God, that God truly exists, but begins to worship an artificial deity, the Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, the Hebrew Abrahamic God. Now, I'd also like to discuss here that it talks about the nature of matter. We have had friends who are Gnostic who believe matter to be nothing but pure evil, but that's not how the real Gnostic conception of matter is supposed to be, at least according to the author here. And I agree with him. Let's look at this again. Now, this is really deep stuff. There is no evil realm of matter in Gnosticism. There is only an erroneous worldview that regard the world of matter as a realm independent of the mind of God. In other words, we are pantheists. We are pantheist in that we look at the entire universe as being part of God, whether or not it's spirit or matter, because the realm of matter does not exist outside of God, as it says right here. In Gnosticism, when God regards the world as material, as created, and not God, then the Godhead ceases to know itself. Not only are we all one, but we are all one with everything in the universe.
We are all on the same road, all going back home. That's including the demiurge. I mean, these are fallen. I'm going to say fallen entities. They're fallen, but they're going to merge back into the oneness eventually. It's not like the Christian theology where certain entities will burn forever and then others will live on for eternity. We're all moving forward. Some faster than others.
And time itself is only an illusion. So the thing is, it really isn't a distinction between light or dark. It really isn't a distinction between good or evil. The only real distinction is illusion and reality. And the reality is, this is just a reality. We are God. We are all moving towards the same direction. Now, we have problems with each other because there might be sort of people who are sort of wandering in the wrong direction at times. So they become in conflict with us. But even in that conflict, we are all moving towards the same end. This is very difficult for the Western mind really to grasp, because a lot of this is more of an Eastern tradition idea, even though it doesn't quote it as such. The Zen and Buddhist traditions and the Eastern religions in general see things as a oneness that we don't see quite as much here in the Western mind, what with our independence and our individuality that we in the West have. When the Godhood ceases to know itself, God seems to be human and falls into multiple personalities. We know as human beings. Humankind has fallen God. In order to come to an awareness of who we are as God, we have to, just like what a psychiatrist would do, we have to recognize that we ourselves are part of this flawed mistake that was made whenever it was made, that separated us from the Godhead mind and made the Godhead, the universal mind, this insane being that it is today, not knowing itself.
Entropy mentioned that there are times when we're in conflict with each other, and yes, we may be in conflict with each other, and there might be certain beings that go through certain punishments in certain incarnations or in other realms, but in the end we all will end up back home, the Godhead. We are all God again. So even though we fight with each other and war with each other, this is all part of it, but in the end we will end up back home.
Well, that's a good place to end this. We will be back again soon, continuing with this discussion. This is Entropy 666.
And this is Lucifera.
Signing off. See you again soon. Bye.